And we are live. So, just finished working out. So, if I'm out of breath, sweaty, or consuming more of my beverage than I normally would, that is why. As of recently, I've been getting pretty backlogged on my these chats. So if you can be sure to just space out your questions. I still want to answer everybody's questions, but if you ask like 4 questions in a 5 minute window of time, then it starts being 20 minutes before I answer everybody's questions, and that's not what I want. So be sure to space out your questions just a little bit, and yeah, we'll be here for about hour and 15 minutes. If you're new here, don't feel the need to spam questions. I just go from top to bottom. So unless someone asks too many questions in a short period of time, I just go straight through them. I'll answer your question. If I miss it, just say, "Hey man, you missed my question," and I read everything. So you don't have to spam me or anything like that. And if you're wondering why my hair is crazy, this is literally how I woke up to this poofy hair going everywhere, and I thought it would be a present for all of you to get to see my amazing hair. The Disney Nerd. Good afternoon, Mr. Chandler. How are you? I am good. I just did a sprint on my channel. I took like a. If you guys were paying attention, about a month ago, right before the Disney investor meeting, I took that week off as my Christmas vacation and to like recoup before the sprint at the end of the year and beginning of the year. And it was for this last month. Like I was staying up till like 2, 3 in the morning editing these videos. If you guys have been watching, I've been trying to put more memes in there, edit tighter, write better, do a lot of stuff to try and increase my quality. And there's just a lot of stuff happening that kind of called for these long lists. Those take forever. So I just finished it. And I just like, I barely thought about 2021. So finished getting it all done yesterday. Today's the first day done with all that, starting to plan 2021, and I stayed up till like 2 in the morning, like brainstorming, mapping out all the stuff I knew. It was pretty fun. I enjoy planning, and I couldn't do it for a little bit. All right, anyway, I'm already behind on your questions, and we're 1 minute in. Zach, a new Zach. Hey, thanks so much for joining in. I saw your message about Patreon videos. I did see it. I just haven't responded yet because I have seen it. Hello, fellow patrons. Hello to you as well. Thomas Jones, hey Sean, hope you're doing well. I'm on a Nolan binge and just watched Memento for the first time. Blew me away how good that movie was. Yeah, it's great. It's fantastic. I saw it in the theater. I was an early adopter for Nolan. That I went to an art house theater, saw this movie. It'll blow your mind if you see it. And I've been a fan of Nolan ever since. So besides the people that saw Following at a film festival, I'm that first batch of Nolan fans. Shake, hey Sean, hope you're doing well. Yesterday, Chris Duckman's channel turned a decade old. Your favorite review of his? I don't really have a favorite review of his. Especially because of the nature of his channel. He is high percentage just straight reviews. It's just more that I enjoy him as a reviewer, and I'm curious how that's not actually it's not as true first decade on YouTube because his channel existed before the stuff that you see right now. He had several years of stuff that actually he deleted. There's a whole family. There's all kind of backstory to it. It's kind of interesting, but so I met him at Fantastic Fest and talked with him, and it was pretty cool. He's a real nice guy. He's exactly what you'd expect him to be based off of his reviews, and he bought my drink, so he's a good guy. Jackson, random, did you watch Year One ever? Did you ever find it overly sacrilegious? Was that Jack Black? Is that one of like Harold Ramis's last movies? Make sure we're talking about the right one. Year One. Yes. Okay, just making sure I was thinking about the right. So it's a Harold Ramis film, Jack Black with Michael Cera. Yeah, we actually turned it off halfway through it. I think I was watching at my brother's house or something like that. If you guys didn't know, I have a brother and a sister, just in case you're curious. And we just didn't think it was funny. It was like doing all sorts of blasphemous stuff without being clever. So we're just like, we're done here. Gamerman 9000. Hey Sean, I finished Smallville. I thought it was amazing. It's not an arrow ending. Correct. A lot of people say that the back half of Smallville is weaker than the first half. the last season, 2 seasons, I thought really worked because they reshuffled the show, and some of the characters that they kind of played out all the character arcs, they kind of they brushed off. They focused in on Clark being a hero in Metropolis, and so they were moving. He wasn't in the suit and everything, but they started to focus better. So I actually liked the last 2 seasons, as we've talked about before. And then that final episode, I wish that they'd fully delivered. I mean, I I know their whole thing was no flights, no tights, but I just think that that's the whole payoff of the show is really letting us enjoy it a little bit more. And as we've talked about before, I wish that they'd a year later done a TV movie called Metropolis, and it's him as Superman in a TV movie or something like that. I think that that would have been really cool. But I besides not getting a big enough payoff of him in the suit, I really enjoyed the last little bit of Smallville. Crashing Coyote, have you ever played God of War? I have not at all. Jess Bonds, would you ever host an Among Us game and share the room code with us? I've retired from Among Us. I currently am batting 1,000 when it comes to Among Us. And so basically I played one game with my family. I was the imposter and I won. So I decided to retire at that point in time. Would I ever do that? And it's a joke, but it's also true. I literally haven't played because I can keep making that joke that I'm batting 1,000. Would I violate that for Patreon? I think that could be interesting. I'd probably have my son join in with me to help me because he's obsessed with it, and I don't. Like, he even has like strategy books and everything, and I don't know how to play. I played the one time that I won, and I was like, I'm out of here. I've never not been the imposter. Like, I don't know how to do all the tasks and everything. So maybe I'll put up a poll and see if you guys are interested in it, and see if there's enough. I'm sure there would be enough people that would be interested in doing it, and we could put headphones on and everything like that. So oddly enough, I'll talk to my 8-year-old son and my wife about how to make this happen. I'm the tech person on almost everything, but if you guys are interested in Among Us, we can maybe make something like that happen. Rich Reviews, talking to you is the height of this crazy week. Yeah, not a great week. Not a great week, unfortunately. I mostly stayed off social media, and I muted almost anyone that was doing anything in either direction that wasn't healthy. I just don't have room for that. So I just tried to avoid social media and muted a ton of people or put them in timeout. Iker, welcome back. Hey, Sean, I was wondering, a Patreon from 2007, 2009. Oh, I absolutely remember you, Iker. I remember you. What did you think about the Malcolm and Marie trailer? I don't actually know what that is. So let me look that up real quick. Malcolm and Marie. That looks like a picture from Tenet. Okay, that's because it has John David Washington and then Zendaya. So I haven't seen it. So I guess this is saying it dropped yesterday. Yeah. So yesterday I was editing video, and as per what I just said, I've been avoiding social media mostly because of what's going on in the world, and trying to not. I don't want to get sucked into anything that drains my energy on things that I can't actually work on. So I haven't seen it. It says Sam Levinson. What has he done before? Oh, Pieces of a Woman. Okay. So I'm not super familiar with the director. Obviously, John David Washington, bit on a hot streak. So you are introducing me to a film that was not on my radar. I'll look into it. The Disney Nerd, what do you think of the nominees of Comedy of the Year? Palm Springs, Borat, subsequent movie, Emma, Bill and Ted 3, and King of Staten Island. If you're asking what do I think about the nominations, that looks about right. I mean, I probably laughed the most at Borat. My favorite of those bunch, if you've watched my top 10 for the year, which I'm sure you have, is Palm Springs. Of those three, Bill and Ted is probably easily the weakest of the films, but I enjoyed it a lot more than Emma. Emma's a great film, but it's not for me. I'm like those types of movies like Emma, Jane Austen, period piece, girl that's 20 years old looking for a husband. I don't like that is not my language at all, and my wife loves it. It's kind of funny. So, that list makes sense to me, because you didn't have a lot of options, and that's how like Bill and Ted can kind of sneak in there, even though it's questionable in its quality. Gal, hi Sean, just saw Trial of Chicago 7, great movie. Yeah, I really dug it, and that's one that my review for it is a Patreon exclusive, so if you go back 3 months or whatever, you can have my kind of full thoughts on it here on Patreon. Flying Nuggets, are you excited for Bloodshot 2? Sure. I mean, like, I'm not top level excited. I don't know. I mean, they've said, yeah, we're going to do another one, but they're trying to set up a Valiant shared universe. That's one of the smaller comic book companies that puts out Bloodshot and several other. So they're trying to set up their own little shared universe because Sony really wants their own little deal like that. So I liked Bloodshot. Other people weren't so crazy about it, but, I like that kind of thing. So, I'm the target audience. Hey Sean, so we watched that live-action Grinch movie during the holidays. If I didn't know better, I would have assumed it was a Tim Burton movie and not one of his better ones. And I'd agree with that. It has kind of a creepy Tim Burton vibe to some of the designs, which is because and it's interesting because it's not even like they're trying to copy Tim Burton. You just start to realize as soon as you go live action, Tim Burton's kind of aesthetic, the look that he gives to things, actually has a Dr. Seuss vibe. But when it's drawn and when it's animated, Dr. Seuss comes off one way, but when you make it live action, it gets kind of that Tim Burton creepy vibe to it. So yeah, I would totally agree with you on that one. I was not a fan of that. Thomas Jones, just seeing the schedule for the week. Great concept with your favorite movie from every letter of the alphabet. Thank you. I try and have some sort of my favorite movies of all time every January. So 2 of the last 4 Januaries, it was just my top 10 one year and then top 20 last year. And then 3 years ago, or was that 2 years ago, I did my favorite movie of every year that I've been alive. And that was pretty cool. And there's just something about the novelty of some sort of like the exercise of trying to think through it that makes it a bit more enticing. So I don't think I was the one that actually came up with that idea. I might have to like even search through my comments and see if I can search for the person that threw that idea out there. But I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. Hopefully people really enjoy it. Andy, if you would choose one superhero movie to have the villain storyline be improved, which one would you choose? That's a tough one to think about off the top of your head, because you think like first what I imagine start going towards is what's a movie that I really enjoyed, but the villain wasn't as good as it could have been. I know, easy, actually pretty easy. It's The Dark Knight with Two-Face. I don't like the way that ended, and so I very frequently praise a ton of things about The Dark Knight, but say I don't think it has a great ending. The last scene, the Dark Knight speech is phenomenal, but I feel like they sacrificed the Harvey Dent potential plot line, everything they could do with this great new version of Two-Face, they could set up this phenomenal monologue at the end to end thematically on the right note. And so I think that The Dark Knight, I don't know why I'm talking weird today. I think The Dark Knight, there's something different needed to happen with Two-Face. Because it just feels like in the last third, they tack on Two-Face so you can have the White Knight and the Dark Knight. And I also think they wrote themselves into a corner by doing that. A lot of the problems that are in The Dark Knight Rises are because they kind of put themselves in this odd spot. And I think if they were thinking differently, they would do it. They would adjust it too. Jackson, do you think it takes away from the suspense of prequels when you know that when the character is in peril, they won't die since they are in a movie in future timeline? I mean, to an extent, like at the same time, there's a side to that I get the prequel complaint that it takes away all the stakes. But how many times have I rewatched Star Wars and still enjoyed it? How many times have I watched Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, Jurassic Park, and I know exactly who lives and dies, and I still love the movies. So I think there's a side to that argument that there's there are situations where I think it cheapens it a little bit. But there's two movie experiences. There's the first time when you watch it when you don't know what's going to happen, and then there's every time you rewatch it. And those are not always this. Sometimes those are very different experiences. There's movies that Schindler's List, you watch it once, that was phenomenal. I'd be fine never watching that again. And then there's movies you watch it and you're like, that was an okay movie, but it was a lot of fun. I'd like to watch it again. And so I think when you realize some of that, the prequel problem of, well, if you know they're not going to die, how do you feel tension? That applies to all these movies that you rewatch all the time too. So that's of the prequel issues I have. That's not one that stands out to me. John Sutherland, Happy New Year, Sean. I loved all the Cobra Kai content. Binged season 3 in one day. Very cool. Yeah, I thought that would be. I've enjoyed the show, but the first 2 seasons when they dropped, they were on YouTube Red, and people didn't watch them when they first dropped, and so I didn't cover it before. But it was a show that I've liked for 2.5 years, and then it dropped on Netflix, and it suddenly became this big, gigantic phenomena. And I was like, oh man, I'm going to have fun doing a bunch of coverage on that when season 3 dropped. And then luckily I was able to see it early, and that meant that I could actually space out my content a little bit. I've been swamped the last month because of DCEU, Pixar, end of the year, Mandalorian, and then Cobra Kai, New Year. And so finally I can breathe again. But that was a fun week. Iker, what has been your favorite video to produce? I normally always say the video, my canceled Spider-Man's video. I really enjoy that type of content when you kind of learn about what could have been, what was going to be. And there's essays on some of these there's all kinds of videos about some of these canceled versions of Spider-Man movies. But there's not kind of like one that's nice and tight covering several of them pretty quick. And so that was something I wanted to exist, and so I made it exist. I really enjoyed that, and it stands out from my other stuff. So I have several more of those planned. They just take a lot of research and take a while to write and shoot. And because of that, I want to make sure I tie them to the right release so that they do the best they possibly can. And so that means kind of waiting till there's new releases. So I have several of these ideas that I'm like, okay, when Batman drops, when this drops, I can do more of those. Gamerman 1000, I feel like you're growing to like the Lord of the Rings. Feel like you're growing to like the Lord of the Rings movies since you had it kind of high in your top 10 movies based off novels rankings. I've always kind of had this interesting relationship with Lord of the Rings because I've never been a hater, and so Lord of the Rings is one of these franchises that, like Harry Potter, like Star Wars, that it seems like if you like it, you love it. You're all in on it. And so when someone says, well, I'm not the biggest fan of that, then people, instead of thinking, oh, that means he's like here, they assume you're down here. Because there's just not a lot of, if you're into the stuff that I'm into, everyone assumes that you're into Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings as well. And so I've just never been on that. The same way that I'm into Star Wars and buy Funkos and action figures and behind the scenes books and read the book, the expanded universe, everything like that. Like, I'm just not like that for Lord of the Rings. So, and it's also one of those ones that I can fully appreciate all the skill and talent that went into them, and I don't dislike them. You know, I'm trying to get see if my son's going to be really into them and showing them different things. So, and you also kind of think about like what would I on that list? What would I have replaced Lord of the Rings with? There's tons and tons of other ones that are out there, and what I could have done, and but when you factor in like what's like a really great beloved thing that I do enjoy, but I'm not necessarily the way that I am passionate about it. That's kind of the context for it. I don't feel that I've really shifted on it. I just don't think that people fully understand my take on it. Because it was like, I didn't put it in my top trilogies of all time because it's not. But like I don't know, it's not like a dislike. Just because it's not one of my top favorites, just because it's not one of my favorite movies of all time, doesn't mean that I'm negative on it. Will Hatch. Hey, Sean, what is your opinion of Battle of the Band type movies like Scott Pilgrim vs. the World or Band Slam? I don't know what Band Slam is. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World um, is its own beast. It's very Edgar Wright. It's like a video game movie in a literal sense, not in the translating a video game. It's like a video game as a movie. It's a martial arts film, and it's about a band, and it's a love story. So it is its own beast. I thoroughly enjoy it. It's not one that I necessarily rewatch a lot, but it's one that every time I watch it, I'm like, wow, it's amazing that this bizarre thing exists. Because if you don't know what it is, it's like this guy that wants to date this girl, and so he has to battle all of her ex-boyfriends, and then they show up out of nowhere, and they're like super villains. And then when they fight, it's like adapting a fighting video game. Like when they punch each other, it'll like put combo meters on the screens, and when people are destroyed, they turn into coins. It's wacky, crazy stuff. Crashy Coyote, Green Arrow and the Canaries officially canceled. Is it bad? I'm happy it's not moving forward. Arrow, I don't want its reputation ruined more than it already has been by Crisis and Season 4 and Season 8. Season 8 only exists really because of Crisis, and so I guess maybe you could say that Crisis is the thing that ruined Season 8 or caused Season 8 to exist and be what it is. But yeah, I don't think there was. I don't really understand what their strategy is. I don't know what their business model is on how they're like deciding what things to spin off. When people think Green Arrow, they think Oliver Queen. He's compelling because of who he is, not just because he's dressed in green and shoots arrows. And his daughter in the future is just not nearly as interesting as he is. Black Canary could be interesting, but as soon as you're like the Canaries combined with this, it's just an odd concept that I don't. It seemed like they shot themselves in the foot to set up a spinoff that nobody really was going to want in the first place. The Disney Nerd, what do you think of nominations of animated film of the year? I don't even know what these nominations are you're referring to. So if you could tell me which organization is doing these nominations, it would help, because I don't know what you're talking, like what you're in reference to. Onward, Over the Moon, haven't seen it. Wolfwalkers, haven't seen it. Justice League, Dark Apocalypse, have seen it. And Soul, of course, I've seen it. Yeah, what are you? I don't know what else you'd throw in there. Trolls 2, no. Crudes 2, maybe. I'm impressed that Justice League Dark Apocalypse is on there and Crudes 2 isn't. That they pulled one of these DC animated movies. That's awesome. So my big takeaway from that list is that Justice League Dark Apocalypse was nominated is awesome. And it's pretty cool if you haven't seen it. Like, I watched it and it made me rewatch that whole continuity of movies. Jackson, I know it's been a while. What are your thoughts on Stuxman's notes from Melanie? I think it was called. I haven't watched it, actually. I meant to, and then life happened. It's been like a whirlwind of time because of this whole YouTube thing turning into a career and then trying to make it work, and then 2020 happened. So honestly, I just haven't seen it. I'm sorry. Dayton, what do you feel is the most rewatchable movie in the DCEU? Most rewatchable? Just by default, the either Man of Steel or Batman v Superman, just because it's Batman and Superman. It's not really a good reason. Those are the ones that I'm probably the one I'm most likely to just put on is Batman v Superman, because there's Batman and Superman in it. It's not a great reason, but that's the reason. Zach, I know this isn't a movie-related question, but what are some of your favorite bands? And you can ask whatever you want. If it's too personal, I just won't answer. But you can ask whatever you want. And I guess if it's too personal, it'll ban you. So please don't ask if it's too personal. But it doesn't have to. This does not have to be movie-related. Favorite bands: Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Smashing Pumpkins, Weezer. Just a lot of stuff from the '80s and '90s. Like I could, Nirvana, Third Eye Blind, Green Day in the '90s, not in the zeros, or not in the last 20 years. Say Anything, Hello Goodbye, Newfound Glory. So a bunch of rock, pop, punk, things like that. most all of it from the 80s, 90s, early zeros. Adersh, have you played Mortal Kombat 11 or Injustice 2? I've played Injustice 2. I have Injustice 2. I have Mortal Kombat X. I haven't played too much on it, though. It was like $6 on this sometime this last year, so I bought it. But I did play through Injustice 2 this year. So, yeah, that was kind of fun, having a story with all the DC characters and battling each other. And then I haven't bought it yet, but then the Ninja Turtles are in there, so that's fun. Shashank, you are the most creative movie reviewer I know. I feel some other creators are just straight up movie reviews, and even their rankings lack the kind of personality that you have. Well, I appreciate that. I've had my windows where I think I've gotten complacent and been a little bit too generic in my style, but I try to find that distinct voice, distinct ways to approach things. Even like to kind of tell you what I'm thinking about doing, I've been watching the last little bit of time, watch like some Mark Rober videos. He does these wild, crazy concepts where he makes a enormous super soaker or does these experiments. But he does the experiment and it's kind of like a nicely paced vlog running you through it. So I'm trying to think through, is there a way to do a movie review that kind of follows that pace? Because even if you think my movie reviews, I start off with my little bumper happens, I summarize the movie, kind of give the context of going to go see it, ask you to comment, and then I talk about the good, the bad, and everything. Well, that whole first minute, I could turn that into a vlog. So instead of it just kind of being like rote, me sitting right here saying stuff, as I'm walking to the movie, my little part before the bumper plays could be me like walking into the theater, like, hey, pulling into the theater, about to go watch this movie, and so let's talk about it, and then kind of give the plot summary as I know before I watch it, so I definitely can't give any spoilers away, and then I give my expectations before I watch the movie, come out and say, all right, pretty excited, tell me what you thought once you see it down below in the comments, and let's get started talking about the good. Then it cuts to me here, and just kind of creates just more of an energy to it, more of a story to the experience of the review. But the Disney, will you be doing an updated Blu-ray collection this year? Yeah, always, every January. Yeah, it'll be probably 2 weeks from today. Probably 2 weeks from today. That's on my calendar. It's 2 weeks from today. Iker, I saw this on an old video, but sometimes you said you would do a top 10 posters of all time. Yeah, I've got a long, gigantic list of potential top 10s, and some of them are, it's tough because there's a bunch of them that are like, that's a fun, interesting idea, but there's not a specific time to do it. It's kind of when would be the right time to do it, but it's absolutely on my mind to do something like that. And there's so many top 10s you could do. Like sometimes people are like, oh, you're so creative with your top 10s, but you stop and think about it. So you just kind of go, you could just look at anything and it's a category. So you could, that category, what's the best of that category? And movie posters obviously are a big important thing, but you can turn anything from that perspective into a top 10. Like just, I'm looking in front of me, like I could do top microphones that I've used, top cameras that I've used, top Disney princesses, top Disney songs. Like, so anyway, I'm going on a rabbit trail, but like I've done those sorts of things, and then people make recommendations. I have all these ideas of potential ones. It's just always a matter of timing. When's the moment to do it? Jake Ace, apparently they are making a theatrical movie based off The Walking Dead. What would you do as a reviewer in this situation, since you don't really know what's going on when watching the film? I mean, that's on them. If they made a movie that's a theatrical movie that's meant to be a continuation of the show, that's a dumb thing to do. That's pretty stupid. I guess there's some examples where that work. I don't, maybe they'll put this movie out in theaters. I don't think it's really they're not gonna make $100 million Walking Dead movie or something like that. It's gonna be a TV movie that's put out in theaters, I would guess is what they're doing. But, I would assume they would design it to be a standalone adventure. And I would probably appreciate that. My problem, one of my many problems with the show, having seen 3 seasons of it, is that it's not it's not really a story. It's just this ongoing thing. And then we go to a new place and the thing continues. And so I'd probably appreciate if they had a self-contained story. Lyra Massa, hey Sean, long time sub. Here, hope you don't mind me saying that, but please slow down with the reaction videos. I'm glad you're trying new things, but they don't really work. I don't really know what you're referring to. I don't know what videos you're wanting me to stop doing. I like, I don't like, I, I haven't done a reaction video in a month. I don't think it's been a month. So, if they're not working for me, if the views aren't there, then I'll stop doing them. Or if I do something and I get a lot of negative feedback, I literally don't know what videos you're referring to, and I don't know why you're saying they don't work. So I'd also, in general, if you want to send kind of a message like this, I'd much prefer you did it in a DM, because right now I'm kind of like, I don't know what you're talking about, and I'm publicly reacting to negative feedback. So I could ask more specific. You could link to it in other place, but. Dayton, what workouts do you usually do? I lift free weights. Free weights is what I do. So, bench press, squats, overhead press, pulls, pull-ups, all the normal compound lift stuff. Right now, I'm doing kind of a cardio thing. Started it this week and probably keep doing it for a little bit with my wife. That's the 21-day fix. So it's just kind of one of these group workout cardio deals that kind of works the whole body. Frank Mays, hi Sean. I would like to show Star Wars to a friend. They've never seen them. In which order should I show them to? Chronological or release? Release order is what I would do, because the story's designed to be told that way. If you start at episode 1, the big twist reveals of the original trilogy are not twists and reveals. So the story's designed to be told 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3. 7, 8, 9. That's the way the reveals play out. There is something called the machete order, where you go 4, 5, then go back. In the literal actual machete order, they skip episode 1 entirely and go straight to Attack of the Clones. I wouldn't do that, but there's the machete order where you go 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 6. So you basically start telling Luke's story. They're in the rebellion, and then you have the big twist reveal. Anakin is Darth Vader. And then you go and tell Anakin's story about all of this. And then you have the big conclusion to it all. It's a pretty cool order to watch them in. Crashing Coyote, have you heard of the movie production called Death Saved My Life? It comes out February 14th on Lifetime. I've been working behind the scenes on the project doing the catering. Hope you can put it on your radar. I don't have Lifetime, so I don't even know what that is. I don't have cable. I don't have any kind of those channels, so I actually don't know what you're referring to. Death Saved My Life. I can look into it. So I'll open a tab real quick. Saved My Life. So I can put it on my radar. So open up a tab so I can look into it when we're done, but I don't know anything about it. Dayton, if you had a canon Spider-Man movie, I think it would... If we had a canon Spider-Man movie, I think I would like it, because it probably would have been terrible, and I love Superman 4. If you ever got this movie, would you like to see it? If we had a canon... Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, canon, the company. Canon as in... Okay, I was thinking Canon 1N, and I was like, a Canon Spider-Man movie, we have a bunch of those. And so I was like, where are we going with this? Canon, the film studio that put out Superman 4, the canceled one. If we had a canon Spider-Man movie, I think I would like it, because it probably would have been terrible, and I love Superman 4. If we ever got the movie, would you like to see it? Yeah, I'm very curious what it would be like, because... Oh, oops, I pushed a button. What it would be like, because they were... the technology at the time, how low budget those movies were. So that would be very interesting to see how that would have been played out. But yeah, I would love to see something like that. Crashing Cartoons. The main actress is Megan Good. She was in Shazam. She played the grown-up Shazam family of the little girl. Gamerman, who's your favorite character from Lord of the Rings? I don't remember the guy's name. Whenever I did my ranking, that I think I mentioned it in the updated ranking deal that I did back in August or September, it's the king that's kind of corrupted in the Two Towers, and he looks all old, and then they break him out of it, and so then he kind of plays out through the next two movies as this king that's keeps knowing the danger that they're in, but keeps choosing to do what's right. But whatever that guy's name is. Andy, what's a movie you personally love but totally understand why others don't? All the Van Damme movies, Steven Seagal, his early movies, the Punisher movies, just a lot of action stuff that I get it's dated, I get it's old, and why some people would watch these Van Damme movies and they just see a hokey plot and this guy like going ah in slow mo and they what is this? But I grew up on that stuff, so I love it. John Sutherland, Sean, I'm starting a new relationship. We both love movies and talking about them, but her favorite movie is Batman and Robin. What do you think? Do you think I should still move forward with her anyway? Does she know? I mean, if there's any kind of reason something could be your favorite movie, I don't like seem very odd. If all she's ever trying to do is watch very campy, bizarre movies, and you don't want to watch that actually can be a problem inside a relationship. If she's like, it's a bad movie, but I love it. There's all kinds of reasons that you could be in that situation. So it's tough to make. Relationships are multidimensional, and so making a decision based off a single variable is normally unwise. Zach Scott Pilgrim is definitely my top 10. Oh, very cool. Edish, have you ever considered doing watch parties with your patrons? I think you can do that with Twitch now. I have in the past. I did back in 2009. I did several of them. The problem is that, and it might not be the case anymore. I've since 2019 or throughout 2020, my Patreon grew dramatically. But basically what happened was we did like 3 of them, like 3 months in a row. I was like, hey, every month I'll do a watch party with you. And the first one had 10 people asking me questions throughout the movie. It was pretty fun. Second one had 5. And then with the third one, it was like 2 or 3 people. And so I was like, this isn't a good perk. This doesn't work. This is pretty stressful for me. And there's just not people here. So I've got a lot more patrons now, and so potentially it would work better. So if it's something that people would enjoy, we could experiment with it again. I don't want to make it necessarily a monthly thing because I just felt like I got myself into trouble committing to that. And everything I do means I'm not doing something else. And so always trying to think through what's the thing that I can provide value here that adds the most to the most people. And that's where did several posts trying to decide the movie, trying to schedule it, and then I spent several hours watching a movie with like one other person. And I was like, okay, this isn't a good perk but I'm open to it. We can maybe experiment to see if we could find something that people. Here's the tricky part. To do a watch party, you have to pick something that everybody can watch. And all the streaming services have different things in different regions on all parts of the world. And so it just gets complicated finding something that we can all work with. Rich Review's thoughts on Richard Donner, who is 90 years old, doing Lethal Weapon 5. I have such a hard time seeing this actually happening. Because Richard Donner is 90, and he hasn't directed a movie in over 15 years. He hasn't directed a hit movie, I don't think, since Lethal Weapon 4. 22 years ago, 23 years ago, something like that. And so the idea that they would actually make this happen, it doesn't sound real to me. It doesn't sound like a good idea. Sounds dangerous. Like, even if he's a healthy 90-year-old man, if you're not, like, Clint Eastwood hasn't stopped making movies, and so it's like, okay, yeah, he's going to just die on the set of a movie someday. And that's just kind of part of who Clint Eastwood is. But like pulling someone that hasn't been in the stress of making a movie and pulling him back into it is just crazy to me. So it doesn't seem like a good idea. And it doesn't make sense. Roger in the first movie was turning 50. That was 33 years ago, which would make Roger's character, Murtaugh, 83 years old right now. I just don't think it works. Thomas Jones, thank you for this. Even though there hasn't been many new movies in 2020, your channel is still one of the best around. Still watching. Hopefully 2020 is even a better year. I'm hopeful. I've been mapping out what I'm going to do next and movie reviews and everything I'm heading to do. I'm pretty excited to see where things are headed. There's just It's even kind of like where people are like, hey, you should try this, and like I make all these notes of potential ideas, and then I look at everything coming out and everything related to it, and the schedule fills up real quick. Larry Marissa, are you going to follow through and read the High Republic novels and comics? What do you think about them exploring that era? I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to do all of them because they put out too much stuff. I don't normally go with the comics because comics as a medium are too expensive to consume. Normally, I go with the main novels. I did obviously reviewed the first one today. Next month, there's one from Claudia Gray. She did a couple novels that I liked like 4 years ago that I really dug. So I'll probably check that one out. But I'll play it by ear and see what happens. What do I think about them exploring that era? I've been saying it in my videos, and what do I want them to do with Star Wars? I want them to go to a different era, a different time, and explore the fun world. So that they're doing that, I'm excited about it. If you watched my video on which Star Wars TV show that they announced I'm most excited for, The Acolyte was very high on that list because it's in the High Republic. It's a different time period. That's what I want to do, explore different things. Iker, what's your favorite pizza place? I guess Papa John's. Normally, it's like the local places that have the best pizza, where it's a little bit fancier in the way they do it. I feel like all of the main chains, they just have to like streamline it so that a high schooler can make the pizzas, and I think it loses some of the magic touch, and they're designed to be cheaper so they don't have the best ingredients, but maybe Papa John's. Quentin, I have not seen the animated DC films, but I've heard about how great Dark Apocalypse is. Would I understand it without the others, or should I see the others first? There's a lot of basically it starts off with the Justice League going to war and losing, and the apocalypse happens, and so then they have to fight back. That's basically what the movie is. So you can follow that plot without seeing the other stuff, but like when you get to the end, it's a clear reference back to things that have happened before. So it's not a tight continuity. It's not the MCU in that regard. It's packed with characters, so I think you'd understand it. You wouldn't be too terribly confused, but it is a little bit like jumping into the deep end. I mean, it goes straight for it. Rich reviews. Also, thoughts on Richard Donner hating the direction where superhero films go in these days. He's a 90-year-old man that basically invented the genre 40 years ago, complaining about what the kids like these days. That's what it seems like. An old man complaining about what the kids are into. And that's classic old man behavior. Like, the kids these days, in the 60s, old people, these kids in their rock and roll music. The 80s, kids in their hair metal. The 90s, kids in their alternative grunge music. I mean, it's always kind of been that thing where the older you get, the more that you look at what the kids are into, and you kind of roll your eyes. I do that in my own ways. When I talk with a lot of my friends that are my age, they kind of roll their eyes at blockbusters, and probably one of the reasons I'm kind of have some of the success I have is that I have some of the skills of someone my age while being immature and liking stuff that younger audiences like. Therefore, I have a broader appeal and can speak languages of multiple generations. But that's what old people do, is they don't like what kids are into. Vincent, is there a remake you prefer over the original that would be controversial? One that would be controversial. I get Friday the 13th, the 2009 remake. I'd much rather watch that than the classic one from 1980. I think it's funnier, more moves quicker, better, a lot of things better, just a little bit more entertaining. Because I don't get scared by these movies, so the original one doesn't scare me. So that's one that comes to mind. I don't know how controversial it is certainly controversial for certain people. I don't know. I don't have another one that comes to mind, but that's the one that I immediately think of when you ask that. Jake, thoughts on some classics? Citizen Kane, Casablanca, Lawrence of Arabia. I've been trying to watch them recently, so they are on my mind. So Citizen Kane I got really into when I first got into film because it was just so declared as the greatest film ever. And so back 15 years ago, I watched it pretty regularly and had watched all the documentaries about it and kind of learned all the techniques that were invented
along the lines, and you start to. That's where it's a film that if you just kind of watch it with no context, you can be like, okay, it's a cool drama, cool. But when you start to realize that so many of the modern day storytelling techniques, cinematic techniques that we just take for granted now, started with Citizen Kane. If you watch The Wizard of Oz, classic film, of course, it's kind of like a filmed play. They go to a location and there's a camera pointing one direction at what they're doing, and they're in that location for 5 minutes, and then they go to the next set. And then they're there for about 5 minutes. They do a song, a dance, camera's pointing one angle, and they move to the next thing. And you start to watch Citizen Kane, it's nothing like that. And the camera's moving through tables. And there's all this stuff they did that is really important. The other two, I believe I've watched them, but they're not ones that I have a story tied to them. Shashank, Jaron talks movies, and Rob gifted me a digital copy of the film Tenet. Loved the film. It's something that has kept growing on me, despite the fact that I didn't understand it. Yeah, it's got a lot going on in it, but there's a lot to respect and a lot to be confused by. Dayton, would you ever do more movie reviews like retro ones? No, I won't, because no one watches them. Everybody wants me to retro review some movie, but everyone wants me to retro review a different movie. So I've done no shortage of retro reviews, but besides when I do them as series leading up to something, they don't do well. And even the ones that are kind of these series leading up to something, they're more kind of like retrospectives plus reviews. There's a lot in there, like my Christopher Nolan reviews had this whole section where I talked about the background of the movie, and they didn't do nearly as well I would have hoped for how much time I kind of put into some of this stuff I did with them. But like if I just kind of like randomly review Face Off tomorrow, no one's gonna watch it. They just consistently, whenever I do random retro reviews, they're my lowest viewed video of the entire month, which tells me. And when I do that, I lose subscribers. Like everybody says, "Hey man, could you do this one?" And everybody has the one they want me to do. It's just not the same one. What is your favorite monster look wise in a movie? The Xenomorphs and Predator have pretty amazing looks. Obviously, I love those two franchises, so naturally I kind of gravitate towards those two. Dayton, do you own Captain America 1990? No, I do not. It's actually on YouTube. So whenever I last watched it for my ranking of all the Marvel movies, that's kind of what I did for that one. Gamer Man, and it's a movie that I have very fun. Actually, I have it on a VHS tape. I have it recorded off Showtime or I think Cinemax. Really doesn't matter because it was literally over 25 years ago I recorded it. So I'm pretty sure I still have that tape. So I own a VHS copy of it that I can't play. Gamerman, Smallville ranking, number season 10 in last place, 6, 4, 8, 2, 1, 5, 3, 9, and 10. All right, so you are even bigger fan of the last two seasons than I was. But yeah, I would have them way up there as well. Idrish, have you ever been into any anime? No, I've never been an anime person. I've seen things here and there, and I've tried to cover things here and there, but it's just not one that I've ever really gotten into. And there's not like my one that I could declare my favorite or anything like that. Thomas Jones, do you think your wife will be in more videos this year as she's been in 2 in the last few weeks? Seems a natural. I know myself and others would enjoy her input on those videos. She'll make, I'm sure we'll do something, but she doesn't like being in videos. Like she didn't want to be on both of those. I had to talk her into it. The live stream one, she really didn't want to be on camera. That's why for the bulk of it, she wasn't. And it was just at the beginning, at the end, I was like, hey, come on, you got to show your face. And she's like, okay. But she didn't want to be on camera. So she doesn't enjoy the process at all. She likes to help. She kind of gets a kick out of the fact that people actually pay attention to what she said, but it's not like a world that she's looking to jump into. Carlin, if you could pick the director of a movie called COVID-19, who would you pick? Francis Lawrence, Roland Emmerich, Dean Devlin, Michael Bay, Brad Payton, or Steven Spielberg? Which one would do COVID well? I don't know. COVID's a weird one. See, it's not it's not world destruction. So Emmerich, Devlin, Bay don't make any sense. I don't know. Maybe I'd go Spielberg just because he's my favorite of the bunch, but I'd have to look into it. And that's not the list of names that I would naturally go with. Iker, when will your new Bond ranking with Griffin come out? It's all tied to whenever No Time to Die comes out. Like those rankings of the Bond actors are lead ups to that. So we did the ones before. We were doing one per month, the months leading up to the new film. Then the movie got pushed back. We scheduled a day to film the next one in the fall. And before, like literally, we're 2 days away. Like on Griffin, you clear Wednesday, I'm clear Wednesday. Let's do it. And then Tuesday, it got delayed again. It was something like that. And so right now, I believe it's beginning of April. So when the movie comes out, scheduled, we have 2 more lead up rankings. So I would guess late February, early March, if it's not delayed again. Quentin, he likes the reaction videos. David Patterson, I literally just finished rewatching Wolf of Wall Street 2 minutes ago. Very cool, very cool. Shashank, what a great film to watch. Richard Reeves, thoughts on Family Video finally closing its doors. Therefore, the video store is all but extinct. It's sad. I don't, I obviously grew up going to video stores, and especially the late 90s, early zeros, when I first had my driver's license, wasn't kind of living on my own. I went to Hollywood Videos, the one that I went to a lot. Hollywood Video all the time. And I'd rent, they do 5-day rentals of like old movies, and I'd rent, 4 movies on Friday night and watch them over the weekend. And so, and there's just something to browsing movies in that fashion that I think is special, that it gets lost. It's not quite the same thing as streaming. There's not the investment. Like I have to pick right now while I'm here. Streaming, you just kind of scroll on it. It's interesting. Crashing Coyote, it's rumored that Aaron Sorkin is writing the Rogue Squadrons. If this is true, how will it affect your excitement level for the movie? I'm not judging anything until a trailer. I wouldn't know what to make of that. That sounds like a ludicrous rumor. That just sounds crazy to me because I'm not aware of Aaron Sorkin doing anything that would be comparable to Star Wars. Which is, whether you're talking about fighter jet movie in space, space wizards, any of it. Like none of it seems like anything Aaron Sorkin's done. So if it were true, I guess my level of curiosity goes through the roof because it's such an odd pairing. He's a great writer at things that have nothing to do with Star Wars. So I have no idea what that would even be. Charles, if you were a director of a superhero movie, which superhero would you pick? Punisher or Daredevil? Kind of more street level, a little bit more gritty, grimy. I could do a Batman TV show. A Batman TV show I think would be fun. I mean, and it's just think like Punisher movies or Daredevil TV show or a Batman something, but it's like the Daredevil TV show with like hints of a lot of mystery to it because he's the great detective or world's greatest detective. Something like that. Gamerman 9000, you said you like Star Wars Special Edition or something like that. What do you think other movies could use this? His name is Theoden. Yes. Do you? It's simplistic to overstate it as I like the Star Wars Special Editions. I don't hate them the way other people do. I think some of the stuff that they've done with a lot, it doesn't work when you watch A New Hope now and you see dated late 90s CGI combined with dated late 70s special effects. So some of it doesn't work. I think that some of it works really well in Empire Strikes Back because it was subtle. Some of the stuff at the end of A New Hope works because the spaceship stuff was just too dated. But then like the stuff they added of like the new song they added, 2 new songs they added in Return of the Jedi, I think, ruin it. And the idea that Lucas is still messing with stuff, fiddling with stuff, even to today, where he added McClunky in a year ago or something like that. That's bizarre to me. So, do you think there's other movies which could use this? I mean, I think there's movies that you could go back and put the polishing coat on. There's some movies that could do with a little extra time, or you could punch up some things here and there. But generally speaking, that's not. I don't think that's the best direction to go with some of this stuff. it a legitimate director's cut. There's some interesting stuff with that, but I'm not normally into. Like I said, if it's a polish, that's fine. But actually special edition it. Iker, what's your most anticipated TV show of the year? Not DC, Marvel, DC, or Star Wars? Dexter, I guess, would be the one that would come to mind. I really hated where they ended things. Don't think they'll be able to correct the ship, but yeah, I mean, I'm hopeful that maybe it'll be even do something a little bit better than what we got before. Carlin, have you watched all 7 Police Academy movies? What if so? What's your opinion on the series? I think the seventh one is in Moscow. I haven't seen that one, but the first 6 I've watched. I mean, I guess I watched them, threw them on from time to time enough back in the 90s. The 6th one, which is not good, is the one that I think I watched the most. For whatever reason, that's the one that I think I had on video. But, I got a kick out of it. I had a few of the toys because they had an animated show, but not one that has stuck with me into the 21st century in adult life. Edish, do you have any thoughts on Spielberg doing that West Side Story remake? Seems like an odd project, but I guess he has the benefit of the doubt. Yeah, it seems like an odd one for him to do. West Side Story is not my thing. Musicals aren't my thing. It'll be a fun date night with my wife, but it's not something like, yeah, West Side Story, Spielberg doing it. Okay. I'm mildly curious, but certainly far from something I'm like pumped about. Thoughts on Damien Chazelle's films, Whiplash, La La Land, First Man? Do you think he could be one of the big directors in coming years? If he chooses to make more mainstream content, he could be. I think Whiplash is fantastic. I think La La Land is very good, but maybe a little bit too. It's a movie about Hollywood people wanting to be famous for Hollywood people looking to be famous. So everybody in Hollywood went bananas for La La Land. There are things in it that are very good. It felt it I just didn't go crazy about it the way that they did. I had people saying it was the best musical in 50 years. I was like, I don't know about that. There's some very cool stuff in here. And First Man, I didn't care for all that much. What's cool about his movies is that he's seems to be obsessed with the idea of people that are pursuing greatness at all cost. And I think that's an interesting theme. And you have it in a drummer, an actress and a musician, and an astronaut. So as a trilogy of films, I think they go together better. And First Man, I think, is more interesting in light of what is Damien Chazelle always doing. But if he needs to find a way to package it for the mainstream audiences, I think, before you can call him one of the greats. In the terms of what really makes a legacy, if people know who he is, he needs to have something that cuts through a little bit more to a really large audience. Dan Peters, thoughts on the movie Blow with Johnny Depp? I saw it in the theater and I haven't seen it since, so I can't give any thoughts on it because it was almost 20 years ago, which is crazy to me that was almost 20 years ago. But I just haven't watched almost 20 years. Shashank, have you encountered a situation where people in your DMs just want to continue conversations with you for the sake of it? Constantly, daily. Do you feel that sometimes people are fans do not respect a creator's time? Yeah, I mean, there's all of that. I intentionally am as available as I can be in my DMs, especially on Instagram. If you're wanting the best place to message me, it's not even on Patreon. It's probably on Instagram. And if you kind of mention that your page, I'll do my best to kind of note that. But it's Instagram's the one that I check the most because it's the best interface for me. It's on my phone which I have with me everywhere, and thus far that's the place that I've had the least kind of drama. But there's people that I don't know, they're just having a running conversation with me and they haven't stopped to think. I have a wife, kids. I have to watch all the movies for my channel. I have to shoot them. I have to write them. I have to edit them, and I fall much more into the workaholic category. Like last night, my family went to bed by 10 o'clock. I stayed up till 2. And I just did this month-long sprint of writing and editing videos. I mean, it was a hard run of creating content. And as soon as I was done having to edit, I was like, oh, let me make lists of movies I need to watch. Oh, let me look at this calendars. Let me make kind of like my plan. Oh man, I got all these ideas and things. And for the course, I've got all these big things planned for that side of my business with kind of being the YouTube expert guy. And I spent 4 hours working on all that stuff. That was what I did in my free time. And so there's people that they're not like that. They're looking for just someone to talk to. And sometimes it's, I want to be there as much as I can be and respond to as many questions, but sometimes I think the thing that frustrates me is when someone goes, what do you think about this? No context. And I kind of give an answer and then they say, what about this? And they're doing this in my DMs. And as soon as I give an answer, even if it's a real thoughtful one with things to kind of like bounce back off, but they don't want the back and forth. That to me is like, so you don't want a conversation with me? Like you just want me, I don't understand. Like, do you just get, I don't know. Like, I don't, that's not what I would do. And therefore I'm confused by what they're doing. The Disney nerd. And obviously, like as I'm saying that, like a Q&A is a little bit different. It's meant to be a monologue of me giving my thought on a thing. But when you're DMing me, the whole idea is like a conversation. And so when you don't have the conversation side to it, I get confused. The Disney nerd, I personally prefer the live action Cinderella that Kenneth Branagh made over the animated one. I mean, he made a very elegant film. I mean, if you've seen my Disney live action rankings, which I'm sure you have, you know it's way up there for me. So I really dig it. David Patterson, have you ever seen any Frank Capra films? Let me double check this. I believe I've seen Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, but no, I haven't really watched most of those ones. Jake H. The question I get every day: can you rank the Stanley Kubrick films? Maybe. I get this question almost every single day, and I just don't know what the demand is for it. Like I did my David Fincher ranking. He's a current director, put a new movie out, has had hit films in the last decade, and I spent like 2 or 3 months watching all the movies for it because I can't watch them with my kids. I was homeschooling, so I couldn't watch them during the day. So I spent 2 months on it, and as a point of reference, I did some trailer reactions. So I don't know reactions when the Disney Investor Day meeting happened. So Disney Investor Day meeting happened. I ran up here, right here, shot 4 videos. It took me 20 minutes to shoot them. It took me less than an hour to edit them. That set of 4 reactions that I shot in 20 minutes got 50,000 views. My ranking of David Fincher that I spent 3 months on got 15,000 views. That's the tension in my mind. That's kind of what kind of goes through my mind of like, it took me 20 minutes to watch and film these trailer reactions and less than an hour to edit it. And I made hundreds of dollars on that. And then this thing for a director that put a new movie out, has hit movies from recently, and it didn't do as well. So compared to Stanley Kubrick, that's an even tougher set of movies to watch. Going back to the 1940s, there's I think a couple more of them, and he doesn't have a new movie coming out. So I just don't know how it will do. I did a Tarantino ranking, and it's got 200,000 views. David Fincher, 15,000. So there's like literally it's over 10x difference between Fincher and Tarantino video, and Nolan's somewhere in the middle. If I knew a number, like I could calculate it better as to like the time I spend on that video means I'm not doing other things. That's always what's going through my mind. And I just mapped out the next few months. What do I need to watch for things related to people that have things coming out? Matthew Vaughn has a movie. I want to do a Matthew Vaughn ranking, and there's all the different franchises and different niches I'm associated with. It was 100 movies I need to watch in the next 3 or 4 months. 100 movies. And that's not without throwing in something like a Kubrick that it's like, why would I do it today versus a year from now? That's the tension. And it's for a number of kind of these classic directors that I just don't know how many people are actually interested or would watch it. That's the tricky part to decide to do it. And it's frustrating for me too. That, yeah. Rich Reviews, what would you rather see, a live action remake to the animated Land Before Time or an American Tale? Ugh, not an American Tail. That sounds too creepy, but I don't know how you do a Land Before Time. I don't know. Either both of those just seem like weird ones to make live action because of the nature of them being about animals and everything like that. Have you thought about doing a season 4 predictions for Cobra Kai? I think Terry Silver will work with Cole since he was a billionaire and he has money to harass Daniel's business. Plus, Terry likes a long con. Um, I've thought about it. I don't want to do too many things and kind of create an expectation of being a Cobra Kai channel. But like I always, whenever new things come out, I try to cover them, and I might do something on it. I don't think I'd want to do it right now because it just feels a little bit too early to just throw things out there. And when I've already done 4 or 5 things related to Cobra Kai, I've got one more in mind. One more Cobra Kai video means I'm not doing Stanley Kubrick ranking. Means I'm not doing something else that I could be doing. Since I'm always doing a balancing act of like, where's their demand? Like, how can I dig deep enough into this without going too far? Shashank, I would put Tenet up there with 2 very different films, Pulp Fiction and Terminator 2, wherein almost feels like a divine force is overseeing the events of the film. That's an interesting way to put it. Gamerman, do you think Back to the Future 2 should make special edition and redesign 2015 to look more like actual 2015? No, and that would ruin the movie. The fantasy of it is like the goofiness of like this alternate version of 2015's. That's the charm of the movie. And if you made it just like it actually was, first off, there's no real way to do that. Obviously, you can't really do that. But, what is Back to the Future 2 without hoverboards? Because, I mean, you remove hoverboards, you screw up Back to the Future 3 too. Without flying cars, I mean, you mess up the first one. How is the DeLorean flying in the first movie? Because it's been upgraded in the year 2015. So I just don't. I think that you take all of the charm out of a franchise if you try and do something like that, and it just has too many consequences. Rewatch Goodfellas on the first day of the year. I moved it up to 8 spots in my favorites list. It was number 9 before. So if you probably do the math, I think it's slightly prefer Scorsese over Nolan. Iker, what is your signed Marvel Legend? Oh, I don't know that it's actually signed. It's not really signed. That's just the case for it. But it is a fun one nonetheless. It's a Stan Lee kind of, I don't know, fancy series. So it's like him with the shield and dressed up to do a cameo or whatever. And so that's what it is. But that's not a real Stan Lee signature. I wish it was, but unfortunately, it was a deception. Lair, what's your favorite Star Wars prequel meme? If so, why is it the high ground? I don't really follow those sorts of memes. Like I actually don't even know. I just know what a meme is and things like that, but I don't think about them in a ranking. What's my favorite meme? So I don't really have an answer. So I wish I had something more satisfying than that. Dayton Radunsky, have you ever watched Big Mouth? No, I haven't seen any of it actually. Edish, I bought Love and Monsters on 4K. You are right, that movie is awesome. I hope Dylan O'Brien starts getting more good projects. Me too. That one definitely won me over. Zach, the directors of Cobra Kai have said that they want to do spin-offs. If they do choose to make some spin-offs, what spin-offs would you like to see? I don't have any that I want to see. I don't know what they're thinking about doing. The appeal of this show to me is seeing Johnny and Daniel 35 years later. Their rivalry continues. They're going through the process of actually growing up and working through it, but they've become the mentors. That's the appeal of the show. So a spin-off isn't that. So there's not a spin-off that I'm like, oh, I hope that they take, I don't even know what they'd be. Like, I don't even know what you propose as a spin-off for the show, because it's such an ensemble about a rivalry and mentors. That's what's interesting to me. Have you seen Fletch with Chevy Chase? I have, but I think it was in the 90s. I watched both of them, but it was a long time ago. Of the Chevy Chase movies, those aren't the ones that stuck with me. So I have nothing I can say about them. That I definitely have seen them. Iker, does the WandaVision episodes have a post-credit scene? I haven't seen them yet. I can't imagine. I don't know why a TV show would have a post-credit scene. That doesn't seem like something that TV shows have done. But I get access to the first 3 episodes on Wednesday. That's when I'll kind of know things. But I wouldn't anticipate a post-credit scene. That would just doesn't seem like the way they do things. Well, Hedge, did you ever watch Cheers? If so, what's your opinion? Yeah, everybody kind of watched Cheers back in the 80s and 90s, so everyone's parents kind of had it on. So I've casually watched a lot of Cheers. It's just not a show that I've chosen to kind of go back and watch. So I've seen, I don't know, I have no idea how much of it I've seen, but very much was kind of a part of what people watched back in the day. But I couldn't, I haven't watched it myself in 15 years or something like that. Crashing Coyote, watching Campy's video yesterday, he talks about Sorkin writing Rogue Squadrons, plus Patty and Sorkin did an interview together recently, jokingly saying they would like to work together on Star Wars together. I don't know, maybe we'll do a little... It's tough to say because if what you said was John Campea did a video on a Variety article, I would know what to do with that. But when you say Campea did a video about it, he does videos where he's taking user questions, and so then it's like Sorkin and Jenkins joking together say that they would like to do it. That turns into the internet saying that he's going to write it. Sorkin Star Wars. What is this rumor? Yeah, does it like there's not like a Variety article popping up, so it sounds like kind of rumor mill type things, speculation, not guaranteed. Erwin, do you know what happened to the Auto Stream 3131 Director Big 3? It's just postponed. We postponed it till it's January 31st. I mean I was in on that too, and Cody on like the 28th of December messaged me, hey man, I hate that we're having this conversation this late. How would you feel if we delayed it a month? I hate that we're doing it this late. Some people are feeling overworked. And I went, I would feel relieved if we delayed it. And he went, me too. And so then we delayed it. So we all made posts about it on our community tabs, social media and everything. Just pushed back to January 31st. But so our ranking of Nolan, Fincher, Tarantino together, it's just 3 weeks out. But we should have known better. The year was so slow that we were constantly, what's a good idea? What's the next 31? What could we do? And so we went, what if we did one more of these? Nolan, Tarantino, Fincher, that'll do great on all of our channels. Let's December 31st. But we weren't thinking, wait a minute, that's the end of the year. Best, worst, surprise, disappointing, most anticipated, everything else to talk about. It was like the last month we've actually had stuff to cover versus October, November. There was just nothing to talk about. Gamerman, do you think if John Connor's death was in the trailer and in the movie as a flashback, people would have liked the Dark Fate better because I know it was going to die? People would handle it well. I mean, I think if you put that in the trailer, people would complain they gave too much away, even though it's kind of the basic setup for the movie. Since we're a year later and people haven't forgiven the movie, I don't think so. I think that no matter what people were going there, like there's people in the movie theater that just couldn't get over it, but we're also, a year later, and people just pissed about that movie. So it's the same way that I feel about Alien 3. Like all these years later, there's no surprise when I put in the movie Alien 3. It still makes me mad. What is the most bizarre movie you ever watched? Mulholland Drive from David Lynch. Went to go see that one in the theater. I had no idea what I was watching. And I was like, you're tracking with kind of, it's fairly normal for the first like 60%. And then it goes full weird dream mode. I didn't know what was going on. It was crazy, wild. Still don't know what was going on. Quentin, 31 on 31. Tarantino, Nolan, Fincher. Is that video available or happening? January 31st. January 31st. We just pushed it back. I posted on my community tab about it. Facebook about it. Cody, all the other guys, they delayed it, but it was just too busy. Too much stuff was happening, so we just pushed it back. But it's 3 weeks out. Dayton, what was the hardest video you ever had to make? Tough to say. Any ranking that's over 20 items is really hard to make. Just physically speaking, right? Like the the work that goes into doing a video, a 31 on 31, trying to have something to say that's concise, that I can say it in under a minute or about a minute, something that's entertaining with it, and then sitting down to film. It's 31 mini reviews I have to film in a row. So that's like 2-3 hours of filming. Just sitting here trying to keep the energy level up, and then I have to edit that. Editing down 2-3 hours of footage into a 30-40 minute video, and then get B-roll and put on top of it. It takes a really long time. So like some of the stuff, like I haven't gotten it. I'm glad I haven't gotten it. I would have been frustrated, but like I split up my DreamWorks ranking 39 movies into 2 videos. And that was still 2 very long shoots for each of those 20 and 1, 19 and the other. 2 long shoots to do those, 2 long days of editing to do that. And then I released but preferably I want the supercut version of it, where it's all one. So I put that out Christmas Day or the day after Christmas. And luckily, I haven't really gotten any pushback for that. But like I split it up because it's just too much to try and write all of that, shoot all of that, edit all of that in one block of time. So, Shashank, would you be uploading more content over on Real Creators? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's coming maybe a week from tomorrow. That'll start back up. Tomorrow, like next week, I don't know if you saw my post about my schedule for next week on the main channel, but it says like I'm taking 5 weeks off to plan out the year. I'm planning out the year, and I'm basically setting up for success with Real Creators. So I'm going to shoot, I think, my next 4 videos for Real Creators, and I'm going to pull some clips from some of the interviews that I did that are in the course that obviously that you're aware of, and pull a clip from my Austin Burke interview, my Cody Leach interview, my 3C interview, and map out basically the next kind of 2 months worth of content for Real Creators and have it good to go now, so that this time I actually stick with it. So part of my big goals is to make that a weekly thing, not multiple per week, 1 per week, 4 per month, and kind of shooting them in bulk at the beginning of each month is kind of what my plan is. And as a method to do more to help people, as a method to kind of spread the word about the course a little bit more, all of that stuff. So I'm trying to make YouTube Expert a much bigger part of. I've been slowly trickling things out related to that, basically since I started for 4 years now. I started Real Creators 4 years ago, and I was like, I know I want to do this YouTube Expert thing. Let's start something. And then I did a little bit here and there, spoke at a Comic-Con a year and a half ago, launched the course this year. And so then if I get the course Real Creators going, whenever Comic-Cons open back up, then the whole business with speaking, products, and weekly insights all there. Iker, thanks for the live stream. Just how often are these Q&As? They're assumed for every Saturday. It's assumed it's every Saturday unless I say otherwise. Normally, normally I think of it that I take 1 week off per month is normally the way it plays out. Sometimes it's 2 if I'm sick, if there's an event or something. But it's assumed it's every week, or I think we did like 38 or 40 of them last year, something like that. So they're almost every week. In my mind, I assume it's every week, but I have full forgiveness for if something happens. Like if I'm not going to avoid spending time with my family on Christmas Day to do a live stream here. Last week, I had done the 4-hour stream the day before, so I didn't do one on here. But next week, it's just assumed I'll be back here next week unless I'm sick. Literally, unless I'm sick, I plan to do one. So that was over long of an answer to say 3 or 4 per month. Dayton, do you know what grade you would give the Back to the Future sequels? No, I don't. I try not to score things without really doing a review for it. It's one reason I don't like Letterboxd. People use whatever scores I give things against me whenever I do a ranking, and I don't like that. That's pretty frustrating for me. So I try to, unless I have a reviewer I've really thought about it, put as few out there as I can. I don't even like scoring things really at all. It just whatever I do comes to bite me. Okay, next question on here. Oh, did I skip? Oh, I skipped ahead too, actually. I was trying to figure out my favorite A24 movie. What is your opinion on the National Lampoon's movies? If you mean the vacation movies, they're actually, National Lampoon's is something kind of different. It's National Lampoon's is something that Vacation came out of, and then Vacation kind of turned into its own thing. But there's other National Lampoon stuff. So if you're talking about National Lampoon movies, Vacation, the original one, that's the only one that I really pay attention to and watch. There's some others out there that I've seen. I don't even remember which ones they are. If you're talking about the vacation films, One and Christmas, I think, are great. I watched European Vacation a lot when I was growing up. I don't necessarily have. It's kind of. I don't think it's quite as good as 1 and 3. Vegas Vacation I saw in the theater, and I don't think I've rewatched it since. I don't think that one worked very well at all, and I didn't mind the remake actually. Favorite A24 movie? Let me see. Favorite A24 movie. I actually haven't seen most of them. I appreciate their existence. A lot of them are a bit too weird for me. Thought there was one in there that like stuck out to me that I really dug, but I don't know. Maybe you guys know based off my reviews. Maybe 8th grade. Maybe 8th grade. I've only watched it once, but 8th grade. Oh, Disaster Artist. That's A24. Oh, I didn't realize that was A24. So, is it? Yeah, The Disaster Artist. That's easily my favorite. What is the best moment from your YouTube career? Oh, that's tough to say. Best moment, because there's been so many great things that kind of happened through all of this YouTube adventure stuff. It's tough to quantify what's the favorite moment because, when you first get 1,000 subscribers, like that's amazing. Like 1,000 people actually care about what I'm doing. It took 9 months to do that, and then less than a year after that, it hit 10,000. When Black Panther came out, things really kind of took off, right around when it took off. And then, but when Black Panther came out, my content really took off right after that. It's like, wow, this is amazing. Like, this is cool. And there was this glimmer of hope that I could go full time with it. And a year later, I did. So that's pretty cool. So, if I had to pick a favorite moment related to my, maybe it would be even, going full time. February 2019, turning in my 2 weeks notice, and being able to do that. It was impulsive a little bit. Like I was trying to decide when, will I wait? And I was going to wait another month. And I just I delivered paint and I was like, this sucks. I was so annoyed. And I was like, texting me. I was like, I'm just going to turn in my 2 weeks notice. Just going to do it. And she's like, well, shouldn't we think, didn't you have it? So I'm just going to do it. And I had a plan. I just sped up my plan a few weeks and I could do that. I was like a safe plan and it worked. So that one kind of comes to mind, that this hobby of mine turned into a career. That's really cool. But then it's also, talking to directors and stuff that have worked on things that I loved. I don't know, there's a lot of neat things about it. JK, is there a movie, a classic that everyone loves that you really didn't like? In general, it's tough for me to answer questions like this because I'm not the biggest fan of kind of classic golden age films. Like that's why I just don't cover that. That's not my thing. So I can watch a lot of them and be like, I respect this, but that doesn't mean that would I choose to watch it on my own time? Well, probably not. And it kind of most kind of golden age type things, it's just not my thing. So it's tough to say exactly. Say that there's one or anything like that. I've never been the one I talk about a lot. It's like I'm not the biggest Shining fan. I don't hate it, but everyone goes bananas for it, and I'm just not in that category. Last question is: since you broke up your Marvel DC DreamWorks workings, will that be the case when you eventually rank all the Disney animated films? Yeah. If when I rank Disney animated movies, which hopefully will be this year, I would imagine that it would be in multiple parts. It's just too much. The most I've ever shot in a ranking in a day, I think, would be like one of my like Marvel villains or Marvel heroes that was like 38. It's a grind. But right now I do a lot more writing and a lot more editing than I did when I did that Marvel one. In which case, the degree to which I would try and want that video to just be the best it could be That is a week's work to do a ranking of 60 movies. David Patterson, do you have any Criterion Blu-rays? I might. I don't. Maybe I don't. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. Jake H, would you ever do a ranking of the Best Picture winner films of the tens? If not, YouTube maybe a super edited on Patreon. I mean, if I were to do it, I would do it on the main channel. I mean, the issue is to do that video, I have to watch those 10 movies. 10 movies is 20 hours. But they're Best Pictures, and a lot of them are longer movies, so it's more like 25 hours just to do that one video. That's 25 hours. That's a full day of my life that I'm not doing something else. So I have thought about it. It just didn't end up happening. You know, I kind of weigh options of which things I can and can't do in different years, but I've certainly thought about it. It's on my radar to do it. Maybe I would. I don't know. It's just not like my channel. I've never presented it as a prestige channel. So when I think, should I invest an enormous amount of time on prestige content that will do all right? It's tough for me to justify some of that stuff. And every time I do something like that, however many subscribers I get out of it, how it tells people this is a thing that's a part of what I do, and those people are then annoyed when that's not. They're like, hey man, why do you keep doing all this Marvel stuff, blockbuster stuff? That's what I've always kind of focused on, blockbusters. That's who I am. That's why I have all this nerdy stuff. So that's kind of the tension that's in me that I'm always kind of thinking about, is the investment of my time, the opportunity costs. What am I not doing because I'm doing this? And likewise, am I leading people on by doing more content in this nature? And I'm rethinking a lot of that stuff to where trying to narrow my focus a little bit so I'm not deceiving people. What's your favorite Nintendo Entertainment System game? The Legend of Zelda, I believe. Had that gold game. It's a good one. Super Mario 3 was really good. I'm trying to think if there's are the obvious ones to pick, but River City Rampage, if you're wanting for a deeper cut, was a game that was like, this is really cool. Kind of those side-scrolling, like Double Dragon type games. River City Ransom was one that I really dug. Have you ever watched Doctor Who? If so, what did you think? I watched Series 1, didn't like it, and I've watched Torchwood Series 3, and I actually did kind of like that a little bit, but not enough to keep watching, but I've never been a Doctor Who person. Shashank, last comment of the day. I mentioned to you I had taken over a 2-month break from YouTube. I'm happy that in my break I had over 30 subscribers. Great stream today. Wish you the best. That's awesome. That's when you start to realize the power of evergreen content, and you make videos that are always out there and always kind of getting views. And if you get the click-through rate up a little high and some watch time on it, YouTube will keep recommending it. So you can take time off and still add subscribers. Well, Hatch, what is your favorite between Marvel, DC, and Star Wars? I couldn't pick. They're too broad of franchises. There's too many things in there. All of them have TV shows, movies, comics, toys. There's too many things to compare that they're just too broad to do that. The Disney, okay, guys, let it slow down. We're going a little too long. I had been paying attention at the time. I was like, it kind of flies by for me, and in another sense, it's like, oh man, I have been talking for a while, haven't I? Laura, thank you for the Q&A. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much for your support on here. We should be back next Saturday, same time, and yeah, keep talking movies too much. It should be a good week.